Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Jasmine Sadler and my dissertation proposal defense is on how to design a professional learning community to advance informal STEM learning for Black girls. So first of all, thank you to everybody that's here. Thank you to my committee in charge from UCSD, Dr. Michael Pollack, Dr. Beth Simon, and then from Cal State San Marcos, Dr. Chen and Dr. Sanem, and then my family and friends, my parents, my brother, my fiance, who is here, Mr. Kamal Johnson, and my lifelong friends that I've known forever, who know me when I had a lot of energy running around. The STEAM Collabs, those are people that I've worked with in my company, the STEAM Collaborative, and then other STEAM leaders, my classmates, and then any future participants who may be in the room. So today we'll go through the statement of the problem, definitions, purpose of the study, what is a PLC or professional learning community, research questions, methodology, the conclusion, and then a call for participants if you're interested. In the United States, over 2 million science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, jobs will go unfilled by 2025. In addition to being more plentiful, STEM jobs are better paid than many other jobs. Students who experience the intersectionality of race, gender, ethnicity, and class identities are the most underrepresented in STEM. Since Black women are underrepresented in STEM degrees, it means these individuals then lack the required qualifications to access the plentiful, better paid, unfilled STEM jobs. Thus, it is vitally important to more critically understand the lack of representation of Black women in STEM. Only 33% of STEM degrees and certificates are earned by women, and less than 3% are earned by Black women. Research shows that Black women continue to leak out of the STEM pipeline due to barriers and trauma that many experience while pursuing STEM learning, starting in their earliest years of education. For example, the lack of access to quality STEM education is one reason why Black people are underrepresented and underserved in the STEM pipeline. That lack of access is ultimately a result of institutional racism and systemic oppression, while daily educational experiences along the way accumulate to those outcomes. That quote is by Dr. Micah that's in here. I'd like to define some of the terms that will be used in this research. Within the context of this study, Black is a signifier for people or persons who self-identify as Black or African American and are part of the African diaspora. This word refers to people who with origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa or Caribbean, Central America, South America, and other world regions. Informal learning or informal education refers to education outside of the formal or traditional school setting. This field mainly involves before school, after school, out of school, or summer activities. Examples of these include after-school clubs, museums, and libraries. A STEM ecosystem is a network, consortium, or multi-sector partnership that is united by a collective vision of supporting participation in STEM studies, activities, and career pathways through the creation of accessible, inclusive STEM learning experiences and opportunities. In this study, a STEM identity is achieved when an individual makes meaning of their STEM experiences and when STEM professionals confirm those meanings. A strong association with STEM is exhibited by competence, efficacy, and confidence in STEM content and procedures. Research shows that in informal education, so again, before school, after school, out of school, or summer activities, are crucial sites of STEM learning for Black girls, not just traditional schools. Some have argued that starting early with advancing STEM learning itself for Black girls, including enabling and supporting their STEM educators and educational leaders to collaborate, can improve on the lack of representation of Black women in STEM. A professional learning community or PLC can perhaps be a new mechanism needed for educators and educational leaders, including those in informal learning, to support the experience and achievement of Black girls in STEM. However, PLCs do not typically exist within informal education, resulting in informal educators and educational leaders working independently in silos. And few, if any, supports seem to exist for practitioners of informal education to better support Black girls in STEM specifically. The purpose of this research is to explore recommendations for the content knowledge and pedagogical design of a professional learning community to intentionally advance informal STEM learning for Black girls. But what is a PLC? What is a professional learning community? It's an ongoing process in which educators work collaboratively in recurring cycles of collective inquiry and action research to achieve better results for the students they serve. A PLC values professional learning, which is continuous job-embedded learning for educators as the key to improve student learning. Moreover, a large body of research has proven that a professional learning community for the adults leading student learning positively impacts student achievement. There are various types of learning communities, including professional learning communities, communities of practice, and others. In summary, the various types of professional learning communities are effective when there is strong leadership support, self-directed reflection, and shared values and goals. However, a PLC has a specific goal to positively impact student learning and outcomes. So this study will use a PLC model because of its collaborative culture where participants have the agency to act on the theories that they learn. However, no current literature explores how to design a PLC to support Black girls in informal STEM learning. So what if we ask the educators and educational leaders themselves? Fortunately for us, this dissertation seeks to ask practitioners of informal STEM learning themselves what supports they need to better support Black girls in STEM. To find out how to design a professional learning community to advance informal STEM learning for Black girls, the following research questions will guide this study. The first is, in what ways do practitioners of informal STEM learning propose the design of a PLC to help them more positively affect the educational experiences of Black girls? And second, in dialogues about research-based supports for Black girls, how do practitioners of informal STEM learning make sense of empirical research as they consider race, gender, and class in their own work? This study thus seeks to create the rare opportunity within a temporary PLC to create a collaborative culture for informal STEM educators and educational leaders, focused specifically on identifying the professional learning they themselves need to better support Black girls. This participatory action research uses qualitative explorative case study approach to gain insight into the perceptions of a group of informal STEM educators and educational leaders on the professional learning they themselves need when A, presented with research, B, led through focus group dialogues, and C, interviewed about how best to support their own work with Black girls. It is essential to invite the practitioners of informal STEM education to participate in this research so that they themselves can determine the action needed to support them in improving the field of education. Action research is a series of commitments to observe and problem solve through practice. Action research is a way of generating research about a social system while simultaneously taking action to change that system. This learning community will not only build relationships between research participants, but also build relationships between practitioners who are collectively responsible for students as professional educators. Since this is a community-based project, it is essential to invite the practitioners of informal STEM education to participate and determine the action needed to support them. Connecting these points, participants in this study will get the opportunity to understand and empower themselves within education as an opportunity to improve the greater field of education, especially for Black girls in STEM. This design is the perfect setup for a qualitative case study where the researcher collects multiple sources of data. The data for this research study will include a background questionnaire to learn more about the lived experiences within informal STEM education. It'll include audio recordings of 2 semi-structured interviews that are held before and after the focus groups with each participant during the study to hear their personal reflections about learning within the PLC. It'll also include an audio recording of all 3 online focus groups where they will have the opportunity to learn and share with their peers, and a reflection questionnaire after each focus group to further understand what was learned and how they learned it in each of the focus groups. The takeaways can be submitted electronically through my company's e-learning platform shown here. To set the context for this study, it is important for you to know that the National Science Foundation is expected to receive funds as part of the CHIPS and Science Act signed last year by President Biden to develop centers to scale innovation in K-12 STEM education. In this $52 billion legislation, STEM ecosystems have been cited as eligible entities to apply for this expected funding. The present study will take place in the context of the San Diego STEM ecosystem. Specifically, the Innovation in K-12 Working Group will be the starting point to invite research participants to this study. This study will include up to 15 research participants who are the program educators, so the teachers, and the organization educational leaders, so either the executive directors or administrators that work in informal STEM programming for children in grades K through 12 in the San Diego region. Back in March, I started presenting an abbreviated version of this dissertation proposal to a few groups within the San Diego STEM ecosystem and at a local STEM educators conference. It was a way to introduce the research and findings to prospective research participants. Following the 15-minute oral presentations, interested informal educators and educational leaders were only asked for their contact information. Upon IRB approval from the University of California, San Diego, those contacts will be invited to register as research participants and data collection can begin. Since many informal STEM programs run over the summer, I decided to hold off the active part of data collection until their summer camps have ended in August. After providing signed research consent, individuals who are interested in participating in this research study will complete a questionnaire about their experience in informal STEM learning and will undergo an initial 15-minute interview to discuss their research, their questionnaire, and their commitment to the research. Based on their relevant lived experiences and availability to attend all 3 focus group sessions, up to 15 practitioners of informal STEM learning will be invited to participate in the temporary PLC. Then, across 3 meetings in 3 consecutive weeks in September, research participants will be introduced to empirical research on Black girls in STEM by reading at least 3 pre-selected bodies of work to be discussed. Each PLC meeting will simultaneously be held as a focus group, followed by a reflection questionnaire. Then participants will be interviewed about the content knowledge and pedagogical design of a professional learning community to better support Black girls in STEM. In an attempt to frame this study, we discussed 3 types of literature. The first focus group is about big ideas about underrepresentation of Black girls in STEM, that talks about the realities of racism, stereotyping, which results in Black girls being hidden figures in STEM. The second focus group readings are a series of empirical research projects that verifies many solutions to empower Black girls' STEM identities that includes Black feminist thought and the benefit of informal education for Black girls. And the third focus group is about studies that explore collaboration with formal education and professional learning communities as a complementary solution for student learning and achievement to specifically advance informal STEM learning for Black girls. The data analysis method for this research will be thematic analysis. Thematic analysis is a method that examines participants' perspectives and notices relationships, similarities, and differences in data. It also is a method that identifies and generates unanticipated insights from the data. The 6 steps of thematic analysis are to become familiar with the data, generate initial codes, search for themes, review themes, define the themes, and write them up. Since this is a participatory action research study, each participant will go through their own individual experience with varied responses. So thematic analysis will be useful to identify and organize the varied data into themes. This dissertation is based on the assumption that traditional STEM learning is largely flawed and unjust for Black girls. For this reason, a framework of critical race feminism, or CRF, aids us to interpret the literature about Black girls in informal STEM learning. Notably, CRF in education addresses the social, economic, political, and educational problems confronting Black female students inside and outside of schools. In fact, CRF has already been applied to STEM education to further examine solutions to advance STEM learning for Black girls. For the purpose of this study, it is necessary to use CRF as a theoretical framework because it is one of the few that specifically addresses enriching Black girls' education experience and their quality of life. Essentialism is the view that categories of people such as women or all people of color feel a way on a subject, and the essential voice of the white woman or men of color, respectively, is chosen to represent the voice of Black women. CRF is anti-essentialist and recognizes the intersectionality of the multiple identities of women of color. Black girls deserve a theoretical framework that combats racial and gender oppression across many disciplines. Therefore, this qualitative study will tap critical race feminism as one guide to help analyze the research data. As the researcher, I may use CRF to help identify but not impose themes in the data to explore and understand how informal STEM educators and educational leaders might help improve the lives of girls of color who face multiple forms of discrimination based on race, gender, class, and how these factors interact within the education system. As the researcher, I must acknowledge my positionality in my current role as an informal STEM educational leader. I was a Black girl interested in STEM, and the only access I received to engineering education was through informal STEM learning through the Detroit Area Pre-College Engineering Program, or DAPSEP. I went on to graduate in aerospace engineering with a minor in mathematics. 5 years into my engineering career, I started a company in informal STEM learning with the mission to exponentially increase equity in education. My vision is to own and run a STEM and arts university. After a 10-year career in engineering, I quit my job to work full-time in STEM education. I feel very strongly about collaboration, research, and professional learning. Because of my positionality, I am a trusted partner of the San Diego STEM ecosystem and will have direct access to the research participants. I hope that this study's findings will lead to the design and formation of PLCs for my friends and colleagues in both formal and informal STEM learning. Ideally, their collaboration will help mend the leaky pipeline that leads Black girls to become successful, innovative, and joyful Black women in STEM. I will take care to let this excitement galvanize study participants, but will not lead the participants to my own presumptions. The major limitation of this study is the small sample size of only 15 research participants from the larger STEM education community. Their participation is voluntary and based on their interest in professional learning and their experience with leading or teaching informal STEM learning. Although they cannot represent the entire San Diego STEM ecosystem, these participants are similar to the ones who will work to form a future PLC. Since the study will take place over 3 different sessions, the study may lose participants. To accommodate for this attrition, up to 15 participants will be recruited, with at least 5 participants in each of the 3 focus group meetings. In conclusion, Black girls who experience the intersectionality of race, gender, and class identities are the most underrepresented in STEM, which further widens the achievement gap, pay gap, and wealth gap, and their eligibility for over 2 million unfilled and better paid STEM jobs. Traditional education models, structures, and constructs are stalling transformative and visionary leadership, which further perpetuates the attrition and underrepresentation of Black girls in STEM. Practitioners of STEM learning need to be developed and supported to in turn support Black girls through the STEM pipeline. By learning from informal STEM programs that support Black girls' science identity, formal science education can be reimagined. PLCs for practitioners of STEM learning contribute to the retention of their students in the STEM pipeline. However, PLCs and other opportunities for professional learning, including collaboration and self-reflection, do not typically exist within informal education. Therefore, this dissertation presents empirical research data to informal STEM educators and educational leaders and asks them how to design a PLC to support Black girls in STEM. PLCs can shift the paradigm in education for the success of Black girls and ultimately all people. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening. If you're interested in receiving more information or signing up as a research participant, you can scan the QR code, go to the link, or just email me if this sounds interesting to you and you want to be updated, or if you're interested in actually participating. Thank you so much. And now I will open it up for questions. Well, I'll pass it back to Micah.